which is now in virtual format. I want to inform you that we are recording this session because many people who are in different time zones cannot connect us now because we have participants from 59 countries and we have to give them a possibility to watch this session after if they are interested. So please let me know, don't you mind if we will record it? No. Anyway, if you don't want yourself to be shown, you can turn off your camera. Okay, so this session will be then uploaded to YouTube channel and all the links there will be there so you can connect to each other. Also, I want to inform you that there is a digital Discord platform where we have chat and we will have experience exchange starting from the 6th to 7th of this month, exactly after the conference. So all the links, all the contacts, emails, everything you want to show or to share or to find out from another and about another participant, you can find there, you can talk. As I understand, we have many blocks there, like divided by interests and projects, so you can enter. And I think Ola will put this link in the chat,
yes,
in Zoom,
yes,
now
yes,
during our session.
yes.
And also you can also share some kind of links here, but to keep them, not to lose them, it's better to do in Discord platform. So we have a very serious and important theme today. Our session is about the impact of conflict and disaster and ways of working to support preparedness and recovery. And our first representative is Marlon Era from Philippines. And he will speak about older people and disaster preparedness in low-income communities. We know that Philippines are one of the countries that struggle with a lot of disasters which nature brings them, and it's not very easy to live in this situation, but these people are pretty brave and ready for everything, I think. So Marlon, please, you will have 20 minutes as each of our speakers today, okay? So we start now and you have 20 minutes to represent all the information and to share with us. You just turn on your voice because it's turned off, Marlon. Turn it on. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Sorry, I cannot open my screen this time.
Okay, no problem. We will wait.
No problem. We'll try again. No problem.
Yeah.
Because there are still people coming in, so.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find our speaker from India, but cannot.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from the Philippines. Thank you for having me here. Actually, this is my first time, Collins, to present in a World Community Development Conference for this year. I am currently the Regional Trustee for Southeast Asia region of IACD. My presentation is about older people and disaster preparedness in low-income communities in the Philippines. Is it a burden or a benefit? I would like to start by saying that many disaster-related studies on older people focus more on post-disaster response and recovery. There is, however, a dearth of literature on older people and disaster preparedness. This presentation will dwell on the preparedness of older people at home before a disaster occurs, and older people spend more time in their homes where they feel independent and safe. Using an in-depth interview of selected men and women over 60 years old, because in the Philippines, senior citizen or elderly starts at the age of 60. This study examined what are their daily activities and what are their potential participation in different activities. And specifically, older people or senior citizens are considered to be victims of disaster when response are being planned. And therefore, this will try to argue that older people have something else to contribute rather than being a victim. The presentation will draw lessons on how community development can contribute in improving disaster preparedness and response among these old vulnerable groups in the country. The presentation hopes to get more insights on community-based initiatives that will contribute in improving the local and national policies on disaster preparedness to become more responsive and inclusive. For those who are not familiar with this is the map of the Philippines. So we are an archipelago and we are composed of about 7,100 islands, plus, depending whether it's high tide or low tide. So we're surrounded by, we are surrounded by countries in Indonesia, Malaysia. No? Well, this is the study area. I will be focusing on the concept of vulnerability considering age. According to UNDNR terminology in 2017, the characteristics determined by physical, social, economic, and environmental factors or processes which increase the susceptibility of an individual, community, asset, or systems to the impacts of hazards. Likewise, we have a national law, Republic Act 10121 of 2010, which is about disaster risk reduction and management in the Philippines. So those that face higher exposure to disaster risk and poverty, including but not limited to women, children, elderly, differently abled people, and ethnic minorities. So from this policy, it clearly tell us that elderly are considered, it's a default that they are considered to be vulnerable and victims of disaster. How about the able-bodied elderly? How can they contribute in disaster response? The participation of vulnerable groups in the mitigation process contribute to the development of communities, confidence, capacities, and coping mechanisms, according to Newport and Jawahar in 2003. Crisis and disaster mitigation requires not only the participation of members within the vulnerable community, but also involvement of related institutions, NGOs, and the general public. Elderly are more to be aid givers than receivers. Their assistance to other means supporting older people with healthcare or income-generating activities supports their families and communities. Elderly in emergencies, older people have valuable roles to play during emergencies, reducing the vulnerability of older people, primarily about creating special services for them but ensuring that they have equal access to vital services. The study, the paper will be a portion of a bigger study, and we conducted an in-depth interview of elderly citizens from 2 barangays. Barangay in the Philippines is the smallest political unit. This is considered to be a village or community in other language. So specifically Barangay Santo Rosario Duran and Barangay Taytay, Zone 2. This is the map of the barangay located in Visayas, central part of the Philippines. So this is more or less the population of the elderly in that barangay, quite small, about 254. And I think there are more males, older males in that barangay. This is the second study area. There are about 475 elderly in that barangay, and I think there are more female elderly, a little bit more compared with male counterparts. So these were the daily routine of this elderly. So early to bed, sorry, and early to rise. No? So according to the common routine that they have, in the morning at 5 a.m. they drink coffee while preparing breakfast. I think this is both for male and female elderly. 6 a.m. they do household chores, cleaning, laundry, taking care of the grandchildren specifically, and of course watch television for a number of hours, Filipino drama and Korean telenovela. At 11 a.m. they prepare lunch. Lunch time in the Philippines is about 12 to 1, and at 1 o'clock they have this siesta, okay, or taking nap after lunch, which is a practice we learn from our friend from Spain. Before dinner, chat with friends and relatives. I think this is a very common activities in the Philippines to kill time. Watch television again. So an average of 4 to 5 hours a day. And then at 7 p.m. until 8 p.m. will be dinner, drinking with friends or relatives, and go to bed early. So more or less, there are, of course, some variation, but more or less this is the general routine of this elderly interviewed in the barangays. They receive support from the Philippine government, assistance in the amount of $8.48 US dollars. That's every 6 months from the city government, and about from the national government every month. That's about $8.48 US dollars. That's per elderly. With regards to their disaster experience, they had experience in the city typhoon, okay, or tropical cyclone. These are the names: flooding, flash flood, earthquake, fire. The worst disaster that they had experienced was in 1948, an earthquake which destructed a known church, Christian church, Roman Catholic church in Haro, Iloilo. Barangays in the Philippines have early warning system, but there are limited transportation vehicles and evacuation centers. Usually evacuation centers are in the form of schools. Of course, they're now discouraging this because the literacy rate are being affected, because every time there's a disaster, the Philippines is visited by disasters, about 20 of them now every year. Not all of them are destructive anyway. Senior citizens or older people were unaware of local government program involving disaster risk reduction. Elderly men and women are always regarded as victims. Some elderly are not permitted by their children to join as volunteer in disaster preparedness and response activities due to their physical condition. Physical capable senior community members, however, have strong desire to be volunteers for disaster preparedness and response. Before calamity hits in the area, there are already initiatives and preparation taking place, checking upon homes and premises, stocking of food and other supplies, and monitoring the news, especially the weather forecast. There are barangays with programs in collaboration with volunteer residents, which is called community kitchen, meaning everyone in the barangay are being fed during the occurrence of disaster. This is an example of community kitchen, distributed packed meals. Based on the interview, older people of the community can help during disaster in the following capacity: repacking of relief goods, cooking, psychosocial intervention, especially to those who have professional experience and qualification, translator for missing persons, meaning language translation or dialect, and of course, take care of children and pets. Some of the lessons from this study: senior members are respected sources of knowledge in their communities, providing information on traditional coping mechanisms and their experiences of previous disaster, which is an invaluable part of preparedness and planning, specifically by the city government. Active senior community members often provide support in their careers in the community. Adult children are incapacitated or unavailable. In that context, senior citizens often assume responsibilities for the well-being of their grandchildren. They are involved in emergency response and long-term development programs that improves their ability to provide better care and give them sense of security. Participation of senior community members has contributed to increased confidence, particularly older women. They have demonstrated their ability to lead and plan appropriate responses to disaster using the skills that they were able to acquire. These activities benefit both the vulnerable older people and the community at large. What are some of the recommendations for future study? There should be an increase in the involvement and active participation of senior citizens in the planning processes and activities of disaster risk reduction and response. Their experiences and familiarity with the community enable them to identify the needs and vulnerabilities of their families and neighbors, including the most vulnerable older people. It will eventually result to mainstreaming aging in disaster risk reduction plans and activities. Second, there's a need to strengthen the implementation and information about DRR government programs. Listong Pamilya means family should be ready, is a program of the Department of Interior and Local Government, which promotes courses of action that each family member needs to do before, during, and after the occurrence of calamity or disaster. Third, improve access to services and build capacity to work with older people. And finally, influence policy by redefining vulnerability in the context of age. This case study provides new questions as a final thought to ask on the role of older people in the disaster preparedness and response. While this study was conducted in the Philippines, this might be the same question that we could ask for other developing countries where older people burden or benefit. With their head, hand, and heart, they will be more of benefit rather than a burden. So with that, I hope that these initial findings of the study will promote and will have a good start for a conversation, and hopefully next time we can meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlon. I think that today the question of older people is very discussed question, and it is not the first session that I'm hearing like themes that are about this. because there is a question why old people are always victims, why they are incapable, why they have to live some kind of separated life, which is not connected with the reality and real challenges the humanity has. And you know, Marlon, the thing you were talking about is very familiar for me, because in 1988 in Armenia, there was a devastating earthquake and about 30,000 people died, 150,000 people became disabled, and about 400,000 people lost their homes. And it happened in a country when we had only about 3.5 million population. So, and I was a child, I was about 12 years old, but I remember my dad, my uncle, all my relatives who were in Spitak and Gyumri, in the cities where it's happened, every day helping people, helping each other. And 115 countries of the world came to help Armenia. And we are still thankful for that. And this was a real community job, and people helped us all the ways they could. There were no politics, there were no borders, everybody did it. And I know that older people, they were very important in this process, because they didn't give children to stay without relatives, because all the children who lost their parents, they were adopted by older relatives. And it was a very, I don't know, we're always proud of this. No any orphaned house, no any orphaned house, even after that kind of disaster. And I'm very happy you are speaking about that, this today. And I hope that older people should become mentors for all of us in many questions, because the experience they have in community is much more bigger than younger generation. Because I'm not pretty sure that today, if this earthquake happened today, 115 countries will come to help us. There would be so many political streams, I don't know, you know, that we cannot because we are, but it wasn't like that in 1988. And this generation, people who were young in 1988, they have a lot to share with us. So thank you for this presentation. And if you have any questions, please welcome and ask. And then we'll go to the second participant. I just don't want to make discussion at the end altogether, because there will be very different themes. So just not to be mixed up, okay? So we'll ask a few questions now to Marlon, if you have. If not, we will do it in a discussion process.
And there's a question from Ken.
Huh?
There's a question from Ken, Raman.
Yes, can I go ahead and ask it here instead? So it's quite interesting, the findings of your research, and thank you for sharing that. Actually, over the last few months, I've also been doing a research on the roles of urban youth in disaster management. And one of the things that came up was that youth are always considered victims of disasters rather than key stakeholders. And that is the same finding also from your research. So that's quite interesting. So just curious to see if there's any findings or anything that came up in terms of the role of elderly people in mitigation and preparedness, because I think what you mostly brought out is on response and recovery. So just if there is any, or if you have any that came up on preparedness and mitigation. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in terms of, thank you for that interesting question, Ken. I think, there are some insights in terms of preparedness. I think specifically when there's already a typhoon signal, so before it landfall, there will be preparations being done, specifically by the elderly. So They are usually preparing either it's a bag, or it's a container which consists of some food, canned goods in particular, important documents, passbook, no, etc. In terms of mitigation, I didn't bother to ask this question because I know it's either a structural or non-structural mitigation that they might not be. Of course, that's a very good question to ask, but I made already an assumption that they might not be able to get involved, no, in this more tedious task, especially on structural mitigation. I think I was prevented to ask that question because I was told that the children of these elderly are the one who do not want them to engage in voluntary work because they want to be, not to be exposed, not to the risk of being hurt or injured. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon. And Guldana also have a question. I'm going to translate it for you. She's asking what like line direction of development you are observing now. What changes do you see? Positive, or I don't know. I hope positive. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'll be able to respond to that question, but last month, September, I was in Singapore. No, it's very close to the Philippines, and I heard that some multinational companies are now hiring elderly people to serve as greeters crew in McDonald's. So it was a big news in the Philippines before, but I have not seen it personally. But I saw it in Singapore, and I think these are good development of recognizing the efforts or the potentials of senior citizens, the older people, to re-engage in more productive activities. And I think this could also be translated in such a way that they can involve more during preparedness and response.
Thank you.
I hope I was able to respond to the question.
And I have also a question to you. Is there any program or any project maybe that is changing this situation? I mean, not only governmental. I understand that the hope for the government is not so big as we always expect. So maybe there is some initiative that makes some project or some program that older people can be actively involved.
Yeah. We have, I don't know if this is unique in the Philippines, but we have an office of senior citizens in the Philippines, and every barangay, which is the smallest political unit, until the municipal and city and provincial level, they elect officers of senior citizens. But my observation is that they are very visible in terms of selecting leaders, for example. But these are usually in the context of fanfare, not very much on a more productive activities. No, I think that's why it made me interesting to study their participation in disaster preparedness and response. No, because this is something that I think there are potentials among older people who in doing these activities. No, so there are programs. These are already institutionalized mechanism. These are already formalized mechanism, but these are more on the, I think, on determining their benefits, on lobbying for more participation, but more in the governance and policy making aspect. I suppose, no, but in terms of disaster, I think they still have limited. But one, I think this could be something that we can capitalize for those who are advocating for their being more productive. This condition of having this setup of office of senior citizen can be a support in justifying that they should be provided with more productive activities, not only in disaster but other aspects.
And Marlon, what do you think? What can make...
Anna, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We have a question from Colin.
Very
yes,
good.
Colin, yes.
Very good. Okay, Colin. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I mean, first of all, as an aside, I was just going to say, I thought how interesting Ken's comment was about, you know, the very, very similar issues coming up in relation to young people. That's possibly something that we could, you know, we could follow up through the course of this. But the question I was going to ask just now was about whether you'd found in the study, Marlon, that to what extent older people were already involved in community organisations, community activities in their areas, you know, because that might be a way into engaging people into these issues about preparedness for disaster. You know, more of a kind of bottom up type approach to that. But maybe I don't know whether your research went into that or not.
Actually, Collins, I think that would be an interesting thing to explore, because the community development, the real community development principles and maybe concepts that we would like. I mean, we see that will be fitting for them. It's not yet happening, but I think if they will be able to understand and they'll be able to see the value of being more, doing more collective things together, building solidarity collectively. I think this is something that they will welcome in the Philippines. But what is currently happening is that they're very strong in you know, being a leader. No, so there's a very strong urge to be official leaders of the office that I'm talking about. So I think they are more concerned about that rather than, you know, being present in the community and doing community development work, which I think will be more meaningful, no, rather than being an official leader, but, you know, just sitting in the office and not being immersed with the issue of people on the ground. Okay, but I think that would be a challenge, Colin. Maybe I can pursue, no, whether this is something that will be welcome. I can explore, no, possibility of adapting community development in the disaster preparedness context. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlon, and thank you, Colin. If you don't mind, I would ask you a question. What should commit people who are younger than older people, that older people are not victims? How should we send this message to community to find it out for themselves, that older people are not victims and they are benefit? How we can do it? What do you think? And I'm asking this question to Colin, to Marlon, to Sergey, to everybody who are involved in this question.
My initial the initial thought that come to my mind would be it's a matter of mindset. If a person thinks that older people cannot do so much, then that's a problem. So I think it's a matter of changing that mindset, that there are older people who might be stronger than the younger people, more capable of doing things. So I think that's a message that should get across, and I think it's a stereotyping that older people will be less productive and less capable of doing things. So that is something that we should be able to influence, changing that mindset of how they see older people. And I think that's a good start. And from there, the rest will follow, I think.
So you think, first of all, we should ask this question, how to change their minds, how to change this perception. But there is no an answer for now, how to do it. Or yes. I mean, it's just a challenge and question for this moment, or maybe you have some answers, maybe some successful examples when it worked.
Yeah,
I'm not pretty sure. I don't think it's very common thing, because people are not very worried about this, but it has to be done.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you have encountered SBCC.
No, I don't know.
Okay, SBCC. I don't know, Colin, if you had encountered social and behavioral change communication. We are now trying to use that. Well, this is popular in health programs, but I think this is also a way to because SBCC tries to appeal not only in the mindset, but the heart of people on what specific message to convey, to be able to appeal and be able to reach the target, on what kind of thinking, mindset, and behavior to be changed. So of course we already have the information education campaign, but I think SBCC is a more systematic way of doing things. It's a more systematic way of communicating messages and trying to influence behavior and promote changes. So Anna, I think initially this could be something that
because I had I had an
yeah.
experience this summer. It was a coincidence. I went to a program, Erasmus European program training for 30 plus, and I'm 46. So I went, and only young people were there. They were about 20, 19, 25 years old, from different countries, and I was the oldest one, and there was a name given to me, our big mama, and we were training together for a week. And it was a very huge and extraordinary experience for me and for them, because it was an entrepreneurship program for young people. And it was about job finding and problem of unemployment of young people. And at the end of the program, they were telling me such stuff like, oh my God, you are younger than we are. You gave us best ideas. You shared your personal experience, which was much more important for us than this training was. So and it was like some kind of insight for me that this generation, intergenerational communication is very effective and very constructive and very important. And I was old for them, like 46. At the beginning, when I entered the room, I felt something that I'm inadequate, and they were looking, staring at me like, what she's doing here. For the first, I was, but of course, in 2 days, the picture changed. But the thing is that even 46 years lady, not old, like it was old for them, and they didn't have this connection with this generation. Their parents are old for them. They are 46 and they are old for them. So this was the question, that it was very, very good experience. And I was thinking, how effective would it be if there would be programs connecting in some kind of social activities, trainings, which are connecting generations. And I think it's also, it's my opinion, but I think it will work too. Colin, can you tell us a few
Anna,
words?
I'm sorry, we have question. We have question from
Very good.
Mark Gabriel.
Gabriel,
Yes, he's Mark. Are you here with us? Can you turn on your camera, Mark?
Hello.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
I couldn't open my camera. I'm not prepared to be seen. My apology.
No problem.
No problem.
I see your question, but you can ask it. We hear you.
All right. Well, first, Marlon, hello, good evening. I just want to let you know that I'm also from the Philippines, and I'm very happy to be a fellow Filipino. I just presented a while ago, so it's good to see you here. Okay, my question is, were you able to like compare the seniors in your study based on age? I mean, were you able to divide them? Because the age is very difficult to determine, right? There are, when you say seniors, here in the Philippines, it means those who have retired, right? So were you able to group them and identify or determine their difference in terms of their disaster risk response potential based on age? I'm just curious.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, yeah. Just for the information of everybody, in the Philippines, I think compared to other countries, when you reach the age of 60, so you're considered to be a senior citizen. I think in some other Asian countries, it's 65. No, in the Philippines, it's 60. I think I was able to ask the question their age during the interview, but I was not able to make some comparison who provided more responses in terms of capability. But of course, I cannot assume that the older, meaning those who are more than 70 or 80, will be less capable, no? Compared with 60. Well, we can readily assume that, but nowadays that is something sometimes it's very tricky, no? They're quite old. For example, my mother is already 80 years old, but she's still very strong and very independent. You cannot tell that she's 80 years old, no? Compare with my mother-in-law, who's younger, but she's weaker, no, younger but weaker. So I think I was not able to make that comparison, no, in terms of age. But I think that could be an interesting input, Mark. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Marlon. And at the end of this part of our discussion, I would ask everybody who is in this room now to show the hand if you really, be honest, please, think that older people are not capable to benefit or to do something in challenging situations. Пожалуйста, будьте честны, если вы считаете, что вот человек, который достиг пенсионного возраста, это же всегда жертва ситуации, или он не в состоянии сам поставить за себя в тяжелой ситуации, просто поднимите руки. So I see nobody thinks like that in this room. It gives a hope to everybody that I think everything starts with family, yes, and with the family members, and also huge work should be done in the community about how family members expect from older people. As you said, your mom is 80 years old. Sometimes 80 years old people are very, very strong, and sometimes 25 is not. It doesn't depend on the age. It depends on the inside feeling of life, right? I think so. So does anybody have something to say in this theme, in the discussion? If not, we'll go on. Okay, so we don't have our speaker from India. No. Okay, so we'll go on. We'll go on today with the problems facing post-disaster and disaster situation with the teacher training for community development. Sergei Sidorov, Kristina Melnik, Lydia Sidorov, Marta Sidorov from Ukraine now. And as Sergei said, now they are in Ivano-Frankovsk and children are still in shelter. So we're waiting for you to hear what's going on. What challenges do you face for now? And how we can help you. Please, Sergei.
Okay, thank you. So I would ask, I think, Olga to turn on the video.
So I would say people
Yes, one
now,
moment, please.
And
Yeah, it
meanwhile,
will be in video
I can
format,
just
yeah.
introduce a little bit while Olga is searching for the video. So, well,
Video,
it's not a good thing to be in Ukraine at the moment, but at the same time, it is a time for us to be born in this place and in this time, and we need to do something. So those who are in Ukraine and those who are outside Ukrainians, there are a lot of them outside in other countries. Those who support Ukraine and those who don't know much about it. So our presentation, I think at the beginning, we just put some statistics about persons with disabilities, about numbers of internally displaced persons, refugees. So the statistics is quite tricky because during the war, well, many people who were supposed to do statistics, who were supposed to teach, who were supposed to compose music, they are fighting basically. So it's we can't get the exact proper correct figures. And after that, we will speak about our university. I work in Preparedness University, and there are some students here. Hello, students, where we train teachers. And again, as Marlo's presentation was concerned about adults and elderly people, so inclusion is about including all, and people who cannot be in the society, like whom are difficult. So society should do something, should change in order to include all its members and to celebrate the diversity. And my colleagues then will speak about their experience in teaching students. There will be also a student, a former student, who will speak about her experience of working for community. And my daughter, who is not with me now, but she recorded a message yesterday in this greetings session, will speak for 2 minutes, 3 minutes about her project. So, Olga, if you are ready, you can turn on the video.
Thank you, Sergei.
We are a team from Ukraine, 2 teachers, 1 university student and 1 school student, and we will speak about inclusive education, teacher training for community development. As there are 4 of us, so 2 presenters will speak English, 2 presenters will speak Ukrainian, but you will see English translations on the screens. We need to start from statistical data. Ukraine is a big country in the center of Europe, and before the war, there were more than 2.5 million persons with disabilities officially registered. It's 6% of the total population, and 164,000 children with disabilities. What is interesting that dyslexia and ADHD are not considered disabilities in Ukraine, so the number is actually bigger. Also, since the war started, we have a surge of persons with disability in Ukraine because of the war, but we don't unfortunately have the exact statistics. Though we have statistics about refugees and about displacements. About 5 million people moved to the countries of Europe from the war, mostly a civilian population, children, women, and other categories of population. And in Ukraine, about 8 million people were locally displaced because of the war with the Russian Federation. Many of them moved from eastern part, which were occupied in spring, to the west of Ukraine. This figure is actually dynamic. So in summer, some of them returned back to their areas, which were deoccupied by Ukrainian army. But many people cannot return because their villages, towns are still occupied, or they are destroyed, so they can nowhere to return. Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union, which was quite a repressive state, and Ukrainians suffered from Holodomor, which is artificial famine in 1930s, where millions of Ukrainians died. The last catastrophe that my generation remembers is the Chernobyl nuclear plant disaster, where areas of Ukraine were contaminated as a result of this catastrophe, and it took its toll on the health and life of Ukrainians. In 1991, Ukraine became a sovereign state, and it signed and ratified international conventions, declarations, and other documents. One of them was the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In 2013, then our president, Yanukovych, out of the blue decided to change the course of Ukraine from European vector to the Russian. Many progressive students and young people and older people as well, they took to streets with peaceful protests, but Yanukovych ordered the police and the army just to shoot. So about more than 100 peaceful protesters were killed in the center of our capital, in the Independence Street on Maidan. At that time, Russia invaded Ukraine and annexed the Crimea half insula and also the eastern territories of Ukraine in the Donbas area. These bad events and bad changes for Ukraine also maybe had some consequences. So Ukraine moved even with more energy towards the peaceful democratic society, and there were many reforms, especially educational reforms started in 2017, where in the brand new law on education, inclusion provisions were included, how to work and how to include people with the disabilities into society, into community, into education. So you see that Ukraine moved from the exclusive society into inclusive society, and in future we will hope that our society will celebrate the diversity of every individual. In 2019, me and my colleagues in 6 areas of Ukraine started a Without Borders sustaining and supporting inclusive education learning community project, which was supported by the Embassy of the United States in Ukraine and our colleagues from the University of Minnesota in the United States. There were 2 main goals in our project. First was to build and develop inclusive education learning community of diverse educational professionals, teachers, parents, students with and without disabilities in order to make our society more inclusive. Another goal was to develop a training program that will use promising and evidence-based inclusive educational practices, how to actually train teachers to include students in their schools, kindergartens, universities. So starting from education, we planned to move to the whole society. The results of this project is about 4,000 members of Inclusion Without Borders online communities and about 1,000 members took directly part in the activities of the project. We developed several books in order to train teachers. We need some books, something to teach them. Stairway to Inclusion had chapters on universal design for learning, cooperating of a multidisciplinary team, transition of students with disabilities to their adulthood and independent living, how to build professional and psychological capacity of teachers, how to build partnerships with parents and communities, etc. Another book is Inclusive Education Teacher Training Curriculum, and special attention in this curriculum was devoted to the work in the community, to the cooperation with all members of the community. We described and we were trying to use such practice, inclusive service learning that is used in the United States. And this practice is about making a team of students with and without disabilities who after school or during school can go to the community and to do some service, learn how to cooperate, how to be members, how to be valued, and how to be important. So we started with this program, but then the COVID and the war started, so we plan to continue this later. In Ivano-Frankivsk College, Preparedness University, we started a tract of that trains pre-service teachers to work in primary or elementary school and kindergartens. And these students will go to their community after graduating and be the leaders of changes. My colleague Lydia will continue and she will speak in Ukrainian about her work in Ivano-Frankivsk College. So welcome, Lydia.
Вітаю, шановні колеги. Я викладаю дисципліни у Івано-Франківському фаховому коледжі, які пов'язані з інклюзивною освітою. На слайді ви бачите перших випускників спеціалізації початкова освіта, корекційна освіта. Вони вже працюють асистентами вчителів та вчителями початкових класів у закладах освіти. Є членами своїх громад, де вони проживають, і, відповідно, втілюють принципи інклюзивної освіти у життя. В основному це питання соціалізації осіб з інвалідністю у навколишнє середовище. Власне, з цим була розроблена оцінка своїх міст на рахунок доступності людей з інвалідністю до приміщень, будівель своїх міст. При Івано-Франківському фаховому коледжі була створена і постійно діє лабораторія інклюзивної освіти. Вона була створена для того, щоб розглядати роботу та вирішувати важливі питання і завдання з інклюзії. В цей важкий час лабораторія працює з питань волонтерства, психологічної підтримки і супроводу вимушено переміщених сімей. На цьому слайді ми бачимо дівчинку Тамілу, яка має порушення опорно-рухового апарату. Студенти, а також лабораторія інклюзивної освіти співпрацює і підтримує родини, в яких є діти з особливими освітніми потребами. Власне, студенти стали добрими феями для цієї дівчинки і організували акцію «Валентинка для Таміли», де вони виготовляли сердечка для цієї дівчинки. І бачимо, що Таміла дуже задоволена і щаслива, коли отримала в подарунок багато цих сердечок. І підтримкою були зустрічі з родиною цієї дівчинки. Студенти інклюзивної лабораторії так само відвідують притулки для дітей, які там тимчасово перебувають та відвідують сиротинців. Під час цих візитів ми даруємо канцелярське приладдя, малюємо разом з дітками малюнки, даруємо їм дитячу літературу і читаємо ці книги. Багато студентів, крім того, ще в даний час війни в нашому місті з'явилося багато вимушено переміщених осіб. І ми, власне, готували житло для цих переміщених осіб і підтримували їх психологічно та в іншому плані, займалися ігровими вправами для розвитку їх дітей. На цьому слайді ви бачите, що студенти проводять навчання з курсів першої допомоги. І, власне, це дуже необхідно в даний час, тому що не завжди швидка допомога може встигнути до того, як буде це потрібно. І, власне, ці заняття проходять дуже цікаво. Лабораторія інклюзивної освіти співпрацює з знавцями психології та спеціалістами, проводить різні зустрічі, тренінги за участю цих спеціалістів. Власне, на слайді ви бачите зустріч-інтерв'ю, під час якої нам розповіли про психологічну допомогу при екстремальних випадках, які можуть зустрітися в нашому житті. Багато наших студентів співпрацюють на волонтерських началах у різних організаціях. Одна з таких студенток, теперішня випускниця нашого коледжу, зараз співпрацює у громадській організації «Об'єднані любов'ю», яка існує в Івано-Франківську. Вона присутня на нашій зустрічі і зараз про цю свою роботу розповість сама.
Вітаю усіх учасників конференції. Сьогодні я хочу вам розповісти про роботу нашої організації. Отже, ми підтримуємо дітей та дорослих з обмеженими можливостями, їхніх батьків, родини переселенців, молодь на етапі дорослого життя та українців, які зараз захищають нашу державу. Також дітей з синдромом Дауна, з розладами аутистичного спектру, з психологічними розладами та інших людей з інвалідністю. Досягнення нашої організації – це згуртування сімей, включно ВПО, в яких є особливі діти та дорослі. Це понад 5000 сімей в Івано-Франківську. Часті поїздки в межах західного регіону – це міста, фортеці, замки, парки, НРЦ та будинки постійного перебування дітей. Відкриття на базі просвіта Прикарпаття інклюзивної майстерні та крамнички, проведення різного роду культурно-масових заходів, це таких як Свято Миколая, Розколяда, Етнодень, особливі канікули з Богом, різдвяні канікули з Богом та особливі канікули з бібліотекою. Також постійна підтримка та взаємодопомога між сім'ями, в яких є діти з особливими потребами, і постійна співпраця з комунальними закладами культури та освіти, а також НРЦ та НРУ. Також у нас діє інклюзивна майстерня. Її мета – це соціальна адаптація талановитих особливих молодих людей та дітей шляхом створення абілітаційного інклюзивного центру для їх творчого розвитку. Завданням інклюзивної майстерні є організувати регулярні курси етноремесел для сімей, де є діти з інвалідністю, запровадити постійно діючі майстерні, що дозволяють забезпечити фінансову підтримку та обладнати фізичний куток для реабілітації. Також привернути увагу суспільства до можливостей молоді з інвалідністю. Також у нас діє музична школа, інклюзивний театр, творчий клуб за інтересами, проводяться групові та індивідуальні заняття з висококваліфікованим психологом та арт-терапевтом. Діяльність нашої організації під час війни, плетіння маскувальних сіток, складання аптечок для наших захисників, гуманітарна допомога, проведення різного роду майстер-класів. Також заручилися підтримкою міжнародних організацій та фондів, що дає змогу на постійній основі забезпечувати життєво важливими продуктами харчування та ліками членів організації та міста Івано-Франківської області і сімей особливих дітей по всій Україні. Під час повномасштабного вторгнення Росії в Україну наша організація гуманітарно допомогла більше 1000 сім'ям, з них більша половина сімей, які мають особливих дітей та дорослих, багатодітним сім'ям, ВПО та потребуючим. Разом ми сплели більше 70 маскувальних сіток, склали більше 1000 аптечок та пошили білизну та футболки для наших військових. Також провели багато майстер-класів по створенню патріотичних сувенірів та були організаторами благодійних ярмарок на підтримку ЗСУ. На цьому все. Дякую.
Hello, my name is Marta. I am a 12 years old girl from Ukraine, and I can't do much for my country. I can't fight with weapons. I'm not a soldier. So I decided to make a project, a digital storytelling project, Reading for Winning. I read there, I read books, stories, poetry for Ukrainian people, like children and parents who are in bomb shelters. They are scared, they are worried. So I hope that this project will make them happier and will show everyone hope that we will win soon. I read for people who are replaced from different cities that Russia takes most. I read for Anna, our friend. So you can see a QR code on the screen. You scan it. It takes you to the official playlist Reading for Winning. Please subscribe, support my reading, support my country, because we will really appreciate that.
Thank you, Marta. I want also to mention that some soldiers who are now in the areas which they protect our peaceful population from the aggressors. So they are also there are some subscribers of Marta's channel, and again, it's the QR code here. You can scan it by the phone, or you find on the YouTube Marta e Tato, and you will be happy that you join this community, online community of readers and of winners as well. Possibly during the conference, if we have more time, we can watch some videos made by our students and teachers. We use sign language, Ukrainian sign language. We use English subtitles, Ukrainian subtitles, Ukrainian and English audio for the diverse community, for those who can use other different means of communication, so they would be able to listen to in this video, congratulations on the Independence Day of Ukraine. And I want to conclude by the saying of our team that world can be made by good or bad people. It can be a good or not good place, and we are part of community. We cannot be happy if there is suffering or if there is some injustice. By supporting and by educating others, members of community, we can experience greater happiness. Let's be united for Ukraine, and may this conference pave way for the just and equal world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergey. Thank you for the job you do as a mother of autistic son. It's very important for me, and as a person who are who is living in the country that is constantly attacked by aggressor from Azerbaijani side. I know what is it. I know what you are passing now. And I wish you peace and peaceful childhood to your wonderful girl who is making this wonderful project. And I think that people would have some questions and things to discuss with you. So
Yep.
please.
Yeah, I will be happy to answer the questions.
Yeah.
There is only one me out of these 4 persons who are somewhere in other places, so I will be kind of speak for 4 of them.
Yeah, of course. Does somebody have something to say?
If there are
Colin?
questions in Ukrainian, I will gladly answer them in English.
Yeah. Все меня слышат. Если есть вопросы, пожалуйста, можете по-русски задать, я переведу. I'm telling that I can translate if people are not very good in English. Okay. Okay, so if not, maybe I would ask you something, Sergey. Please let me tell me, the vulnerable group is people with special needs. It's a very vulnerable group. So what's going on now? How is the situation now? Does government take any, I don't know, steps about this?
Thank you for the question, Anna. Well, the government works, the government is in the country and it's very important, but it can't do a lot of things because all the resources, all the equipment it's needed to not to lose the war, because we just need to stand. If you stand, so our soldiers and also the top officials who are military officials, they're concerned with this. Basically, we are very grateful and very thankful for help from international donors and communities. So they help the disabled community a lot. And among these people who left Ukraine during these 2 months of aggression, there were many children with disabilities. So according to the law, to the martial law, for example, I cannot leave my country because I can basically defend it. I was enlisted back in 2013. Now I'm just teaching, but who knows what's going to be.
Yeah.
But families who have a child with disabilities or a person with disabilities, they can leave the country. So the law allows them to do it. And many of them just moved to places. And so I said that we are thankful for that. And these people, and during the conference, I heard a lot of words of gratitude. And also these people, they learn abroad, they learn international practices, what it is like to be a person with the disabilities, for example, in Poland, in Germany, in other countries, but mostly it's like Poland and Germany. And some of them, they just try to do something first in their communities, local communities of Ukrainians, but again, they just plan to return. They maybe some of them will not return, but many of them just their hearts are with their country, but they just need to choose the protection of their children. So it's the government. Well, there are some money that goes to support children. So these, I don't know how to name it, allowances or pensions.
Yeah.
So the government with the financing, they do their work as far as I know. But there are less money on education. And as far as I know, many teachers or many schools cannot allow the support of children with disabilities. Managed assistants of teachers, they feel that they are not necessary, or they don't have enough money or enough financial help from the state. So it's something like that. Well, yeah, internationally and also community. Those people who are here in Ukraine, as I said, I live in the west of Ukraine, and we have a lot of people who speak Russian, who had to flee from territories which were in danger. So they come here and they also try to make their communities. They learn Ukrainian, but at the same time, they teach us something that about disabilities, about helping, about empathy. And many of them are kind of carriers of the ideas, of the strategies they used successfully in their cities or towns, which are under occupation now, but they brought these ideas here, and we are happy to learn from these internally displaced persons. So it's not like they are burdens, and we try not to use these words, or we don't think about this. We just in one boat, and I think the whole world, it's not in Ukraine, but
Yeah.
the fate of Ukraine will determine the fate of the world, I think. So we just keep our fingers crossed, and we think that everything will be good, and that diversity, equality, and human rights will prevail.
You know what I see in our country, like in the period of war, there are a lot of people, young guys, who are becoming disabled too, physically disabled. And of course, children and young people with special needs who had this diagnosis during all their life are coming out of the focus for that moment, because it is a war and guys are becoming disabled and they need post-traumatic psychological support, they need physical support, they need medical support, equipment support, and many people from Armenian community outside the Armenia come here, doctors, surgeons, they do surgeries, they help financially. And mostly I see that community does a lot more job than government in our country. I don't know how it works in Ukraine, but I see that people who are in special needs for this moment, they're out of focus because of the situation. Does the same thing happen now in Ukraine?
Well, yeah,
It's objective. It has to be like that in this situation. I understand it. I understand that it is because of war.
Yeah, actually, answering your question, I wouldn't say that there is some kind of taking some finances from others. Well, we are the nation, we are the big community which is diverse, and as far as I know, and you saw it in my presentation, and you will see a lot of presentations during these 3 days of the conference, that people with disabilities, they join the activities to, especially children with disabilities, their parents, like to help military. So it's not like these military take our money or our resources. No, they are not the bosses, but they are important. It's kind of a human body. When you are ill, when you have temperature, so these little things in your body is more important than the growth of your hair, for example, beautiful hairstyles and your nails. You need to recover, you need to fight the virus. And after that, you will go to the hairdresser and make a beautiful.
Stay alive and keep your country.
So I can't say that the resources are not just. Everybody loses now, and every day we lose a lot of money because of this war. It's very expensive, and Russia loses maybe double or maybe more, and it's very stupid because a sane person wouldn't imagine that in order to build hospitals for Russians, they send them to killed and to be mutilated, and they return to nothing, because this country will disappear soon. They will kill each other after that. Ukraine is gonna win. Ukraine is going to stand, actually. And this aggression that they bring here, they need to build hospitals in their countries. They need to build shelters for children with disabilities. Don't go here and kill others. So it's like that. We are together and we are united, I think, and people with disabilities and without disabilities.
And what about your work? Do you have now possibility, as I understand, your daughter makes a great job. She goes to shelters and she support people, she inspires them. How is teaching going on? Do you have possibility now to teach in the university? Are students coming to lessons?
Luckily we started this academic year offline, so children managed to go to classrooms. But and luckily that there are no many air raid sirens in my area, because I live very far from the border. So some missiles, when they just traveled to the west part of Ukraine, possibly they will be just destroyed on their route, or they will just lost somewhere, because Russians missiles are like Russians army, they are just losing, but still they manage to bring death. So several times a week, children need to go to bomb shelters. It's obligatory. And well, we didn't think about bomb shelters before.
Yeah.
We didn't think about protection. I know that in the United States, they think about tornadoes and stuff like that, and they make windows very little. So it's they thought about this. And possibly it's, I think the task for our government is not build roads after the war, because they are big road builders, but think about shelters, about underground, I would say, assembly halls where everybody will be comfortable, and possibly there could be some lessons and something like that, because our shelters are not very equipped. So children manage, they are young and they already children of war. It's sad to say, but it is. But they manage, and we are the nation that is going not to be a victim, but to be a survivor. So we need to survive, and we are grateful for the help, and we also think about the help and about our citizens.
Grobinyana was asking you what motivates Ukrainian soldiers to fight so hard. I think it's much more personal question to you, and you will answer her after the session, because we're speaking now about the community development. So I would make this question another way. What does motivate you to go on, to stay with your community, to do your job as well as you can? What gives you power? What does give you energy and belief in job you do?
Okay, yeah, it's quite philosophical question, and I will try to use some musical quote. I think it's from Pink Floyd, but I'm not sure. It's divided we fall, and united we stand. So yeah, division is, I think it's Division Bell from Pink Floyd. Division is not good. And when you lose, so there is another saying, divide et impera, so you just divide and be powerful, something like that. So we need to be together. It's not pleasant. So maybe in my presentation, I try to make it as much effective and very, so we are proud of what we are doing, but at the same time, yesterday I had a very bad day and I was very depressed, because it's psychological pressure, and I spent 2 hours with my students, and then I went home very angry. And I know that there are a lot of families suffer, a lot of children suffer, but at the same time, every day we try to say, okay, thank you for the new day, smile maybe, or just not shout, and go to your community, and maybe help something. Well, I taught my daughter all the time, maybe it's even too much, but because she's a child, and I just put some missions on her, like you need to go to school, and on the road, if you find two sad people, just say hello, good morning, something like that. It's kind of a duty, but it's not good for children to be dutiful, so something like that. But again, for me, it's important just if we stand, if we are together, if we try to support each other, not by big project as I spoke, but other little project. My students sometimes they just help me to be positive and to be happy. Sometimes my family. So we are just community, and we don't have another country.
I think that in critical times, in disaster times, which are we speaking today, and we're ending our session now, people feel much more sharper how important is to be a community. That people understand and realize and feel with their heart and their body that you cannot do anything alone. It's impossible, that we are all connected to each other and we influence each other. And in the times of disasters, I think it's the most important thing people see clearly. And unfortunately, very often when there is no any disaster and comfort and advertising of comfort and propaganda of self-comfort makes people separated, and they don't understand and don't feel how the community is important. They lose this feeling. And I'm not happy with the idea that we should have war to understand the importance of the community. I would prefer we live in peace and develop and create something beautiful and wonderful together, feeling the need of this community. Because in my life, because I have a son who is 21 years old and he is diagnosed severe autism, but it is not like the stamp for me. I'm just telling the fact that he is diagnosed. I have this crisis or this critical situation in my life every day. And I adore this critical situation in the meaning of changing myself and understanding the role of community, because I understand that my son cannot do anything alone, as I cannot do, or any person who doesn't have any disability, he can't do anything alone. So I think it was a very important session today for everybody, for us to remember each day of our life, each moment of our life, to remember that we are a community and each person is a part of this community who can benefit and push the borders every day. And I'm thankful to this session and to this conference and to all representatives and participants and of course speakers who are today with us. Hope to see you soon, and you can again be contacted in Discord and be a participant of other sessions of this wonderful conference. Thank you to International Association of Community Development, and thank you to Inclusive Practices for supporting and holding all these beautiful things today. See you soon. And we are ending. It's 90:30, so we're up. If you have any questions or anything to discuss, just write it down, okay?
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Thank you, organizers,
Bye.
and thank you, participants.
Thank you.
Дякую.
Thanks, everyone.